Hello. So, the roles people play, the roles we play in this human experience, in this body, at this time, in this realm. I wanted to talk today about the scapegoat role and other relationships, and just generally how I've navigated relationships throughout my life so far, and from an empath's point of view. So, as I see it, we agreed to come in to play a role here. I don't know this for 100% sure because I haven't got that information when I've come out of my body yet, but it feels really resonant to me that I agreed to play this role. I'm not quite sure whether I've come off track. I do feel I've come off track a few times, but who knows? I'll definitely find out when it's my time to transition. But for now, I was born into a family of origin where it's was a very large family, lots of different dynamics, everybody playing their roles and everybody doing the best that they can. As I became more aware, actually before I had my awakening, which felt sort of quite abrupt at the time, some of the family dynamics were very difficult for me throughout my life. I found there was particularly one dynamic that I never felt safe in. And when I look back now, I see that I was always looking for safety. That seems to kind of be my personality type. But I never felt safe in that family dynamic. And I'm not here to bash family, I'm just here to tell the truth of it from my perspective. And so family life wasn't terrible throughout my whole life, but it always felt quite up and down. I never really knew where I was, and I didn't feel much safety within that dynamic. And as I became more aware, and like I say, I had my awakening, I could see that my position in the family was that of a scapegoat role. And I want to explain a little bit about that role. I did actually have a look at ChatGPT because I want to explain it in a way where I don't go off track. So I'm going to read what ChatGPT said because this really resonates. So the scapegoat is the one who quietly carries the family's unfinished emotional business. It is not a role anyone volunteers for. That remains to be seen. It forms when a family cannot face certain feelings, conflicts, or truths, so those things get placed onto one person instead. That person becomes the problem, even when the real problems are systemic. So, in simple terms, the scapegoat is blamed when things go wrong, criticised more than others, held to different standards, seen as difficult, dramatic, or defective, treated as separate from the group. It's a pressure release valve. If all the tension can be pointed at one person, the rest of the family can avoid looking at their own behaviour wounds or responsibilities. And emotionally, the scapegoat often grows up hyper-aware, independent in thought, deeply empathetic, and paradoxically very strong. But it becomes a cost as chronic self-doubt can creep in, feeling wrong without knowing why, a lifelong sense of not belonging, over-responsibility for others' emotions, nervous system always on alert. The scapegoat is usually the one who sees through dysfunction, breaks unspoken rules, refuses to pretend everything is fine, and carries authenticity into a system built on avoidance. So I could go on with that, but from my lived experience, everything I just wrote there is exactly the role that I was in. And it was really painful, and it did take me some years to fully untangle from it, because within that family dynamic, there were also trauma bonds formed. And how I can explain a trauma bond is like a bond comes together, but if two of those people aren't aware, they're bonding in ways that is actually not very healthy. So for me, mine was safety. So I was bonding with a particular individual where I thought I felt safe, and sometimes I did and sometimes I didn't. But overall, I felt unsafe, and I felt that I had to act a certain way to be accepted, to be loved, to be wanted. I mean, we all, especially growing up, we're programmed from a young age. Our parents are programmed as well, and we're taught certain things. So we end up thinking, oh, if I act this way, then I know that's going to make that person happy. If I'm truly myself, I know it might, to put it bluntly, piss them off. Or, certain dynamics like that can form, and not just in family dynamics, outside of family dynamics as well. So relationships, marriages, and you'll find that people go into marriages and they're both quite wounded, but there's something in there that they can both get something to make each other feel safe. But it's a false sense of security. And when a person starts to become aware of what they're doing, like I did, and then they start to change and adjust, that can actually bring up a lot for the other person that is used to you being a certain way. And so I had people saying, like, there were instances where some family members would say, "You've really changed. I preferred the other version of you," because obviously that they prefer that you're still playing that role, which makes them feel comfortable. So this happens in a lot of dynamics. So in the end, I untangled myself from this. It took quite a few years, and now I'm estranged from my family. It became clear that not everyone wants to take accountability for the way they act or their behaviour. And as an empath, sometimes you look at yourself so much that you're self-analysing to think, where is it where I could change, or can I take accountability? Because I know that I'm a person, now I realise I'm a person that really likes to take accountability for everything and look at myself, and I'm really happy to do that. I've got no worries, I've got no pride in that way. That's all fallen away. I just want connections that are honest, open, and if you make a mistake or you say something that's hurtful, I'm more than happy to take responsibility for it. But what I found myself doing is I was saying sorry for things that weren't even for me to say sorry for. I was saying sorry for things that were for other people that should have been taking accountability. And so what do we do in this situation? And what did I do in that situation? It took me time to completely relinquish and drop any hope of anybody else changing. We come into this realm and we're in a human form, and we're a pack animal, and pack animals thrive in community and building that closeness and that connection, and this is healthy. But if you're in a pack community that is dysfunctional and can't look at themselves and can't take accountability and don't have that awareness, then you might as well be banging your head against a brick wall, because all it ends up doing is harming you. And I found that once I changed, once you become aware and you come on this path, you'll find that lots of relationships fall away. That's just the natural process. That's what happens. And some people won't understand your changes because they're not on the path that you're on, and that's fine. It is what it is. We're all here. It is like life school. So we're here to learn. I really feel that we're here to learn what the truth is. But not everybody has possibly picked that role to come here to learn the truth, because if it's a game, maybe we picked before we came in the certain roles that we were going to play. And you'll notice that suffering really brings you into questioning. So suffering really brought me into a lot of questioning of, like, what is this? I literally can't take this anymore. My body can't take it. I can't take it. What do I do? So I sought after help. And some of that was helpful. Some of it was not so helpful. Because there is a line between condoning something and not condoning it. So if someone's acting poorly to you, but then they keep apologising, let's say something like this. I know this can happen sort of in abusive relationships where they do something, they feel guilty for it, and then a couple of weeks later or a couple of months later it happens again, but that person said, oh, I will change, etc. That's something that you work out as you go along, and then it takes for a person to become really aware to think that that person actually isn't going to change. That has become a pattern for them. What do I want to do? Do I want to stay in that, or do I want to work out what feels right for me and step out of that? And this is what goes on a lot of the time. I mean, we're changing all the time. So I might feel a certain way about something today and it might change tomorrow. And it's kind of the same with awareness. For a lot of people, it's like a slow burn. Like for me, it's been a slow burn. And when I look back now, I think, wow, I was really unconscious, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's just where I was. And now I'm more aware. The kindest thing, most loving thing I can do for myself is to put myself in relationships and energies and positions where the person mirroring me is similar to me. They're really happy to take accountability. They're happy to talk things out. They're happy to really look at themselves. This path is not for the faint-hearted. There are many, many people that just aren't willing to do that. It's too painful. And it is painful when you have to really look at yourself. It's not an easy task. You have to look at your own shortcomings. You have to look at your reactions to things. But I want to make sure that I explain this properly, because there is no blame, but that doesn't condone other people's poor behaviour. And so that's something that I've learned. I never wanted to come out of my family dynamic, and I tried and tried and tried, but you can only do that for so long until you kind of break. And for me, my body became ill. And I just wanted to connect. But what it did is it really, really made me connect within myself. And if that hadn't have happened, then I possibly wouldn't be on this path now. I wouldn't have come to know the truth of who we are, which is unconditional love. And it really is a journey. It's a journey, an inward journey. When people say about the inner work, it literally is that. It does feel like a human job, that inner work. But the benefits are amazing, because you really get to know who you are. You get to understand what this realm is and what this is that we're in. I now know that nothing is personal. So if I make a choice and someone doesn't like that choice, but that choice is really aligned for me and I've done it in a really loving way, whatever that person thinks, if they're judging me, misunderstanding me, that's not my stuff. That's not mine to carry. That's not my stuff. That's their stuff. And whether they want to look at that or blame, that's up to them. So you can stay in like a victim mentality. And, I definitely was in a victim mentality. And there's also a difference with that. If someone's doing something to you or treating you in a certain way that's really unfair and you're being mistreated, then you're not just going to be like throw love and light on them and think, oh, well, that's the role they're playing and it's fine. No, that's not what this is about. It's about, I'm not condoning that behaviour. that's not mine to carry. You can have that back. And I'm staying in love. I'm staying in looking after myself, looking after my inner child. Like, inner child work has been an absolute game changer for me as well. To really check in with how your inner child is, and your inner child is always going to tell you the truth. Sometimes, if you give it to mind can just send you into loops, and it can also play on your triggers as well. So your anxieties and fears, of the human form from experience, that can still come up. If you really connect in here to that inner child, he is never going to lie to you. They'll tell you the truth. And yeah, I just feel that it's, for me, to have conversations like this. If I had like YouTubes to go to like this, it would have been really helpful for me when I was navigating these relationships as I went through my awareness process. And forgiveness is, like I say, it's not condoning other people's behaviour, but it's seeing it for what it is. You can still love others in that way. You can still have that unconditional love, but it's not healthy for you to be around. So you can put it far from you. And that's what I did. And that's, and you'll find that when you really come in here and really connect to this place, you know what the truth is. And I know that when I leave this body and they've left their bodies and we're on the other side, possibly we'll laugh about it. We'll see just what was going on. But I know that when I really stay with my truth and stay here, I feel like it's almost like you're applauded from the other side, that you're really staying in that authenticity of what feels right for you. And so what I'm talking about today, it's how I've navigated it, and I still navigate this with certain relationships. I've got some really beautiful, loving relationships now. Really beautiful. Like, I feel so grateful. And if I hadn't have dealt with all of that and done that inner work, those people may have not come into my energy. That may not have happened. So I never would have known that that was possible. So there is no negative, even though it can feel at the time when you're going through stuff, it can feel really challenging. You have to be brave. You have to have courage to do this. And everyone can do it. And if you're on that path now and you're becoming more aware, really check in with yourself. What feels right for you? What might be coming from a trigger from the past that you can just sit with and reflect on for a while, and what actually feels really authentic for you and your being. Yeah, and I definitely feel that doing this, it brings a lot of gifts, human gifts, and I don't mean material wise, but it makes living this life experience more peaceful. It's, and once you work out those triggers and move that energy and move that out of the body and just start to see things for what they are, it's like the screen, the condensation on the screen, there's a bit more being wiped off and it gets clearer, and then it gets clearer, and you can just live this experience in 100 times more peace, that inner peace within. So I'm going to leave it there for today, but if there's any questions or comments, about what I've talked about, because I know for me, I did want to know some more nuances to what was going on for me, because there was quite a lot of entangled stuff, but it's different for everybody. I wanted to say that I don't think I mentioned this about we are really programmed to say that blood is thicker than water and family is really important, and that's just not true. But if you're in a family and it is really loving and the connection, that's beautiful. You know, not every family dynamic is dysfunctional. And some beautiful relationships can be built within family dynamics. But for me, it was, I tried for so long, but it was actually really damaging for me. It would have been great if I could have let go sooner, but it played out like it did. It is what it is, you know. And I don't hate them, but I know it's healthier for me and better for me to have taken that space. And like I say, in any relationship, my door is always open if people show remorse for their wrongdoings. That's the other thing is, and that's kinder for me as well. That feels better for me, and it's just kinder on my system, on my nervous system. Yes. So I'll leave it there. Just know that everything, absolutely everything, it's all about love. And we came here for contrast. We came here for a life experience. I definitely am not coming back here again. I know that for sure. And yeah, I might have a bit of a word with myself when I get back there as to why I chose this life path, but it is what it is. And yeah, we can do our best with what we've got. Okay, sending you lots of love. See you next week. Bye.